Hey, welcome back to Whiskey Quest. My name's Antonio Perez, and tonight we're drinking Evan Williams Bottled and Bond Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Now, in my last video, I said I was gonna review something that would hopefully change your mind about bottom shelf whiskeys, and I'll get to it in a little bit. Um, So yeah, Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is 100 proof, so 50% ABV, and the color on this is I'd say it's about a like a medium copper kind of color there. It's it's a pretty dark color, and we'll get straight to the review because I think there's quite a bit for me to explain about the bottle and bond, and I'll probably do that while we're letting it open up with some water. So, right on the nose on this one, yeah, on the nose you get a lot of the barrel, you get a lot of oak, you get caramel, I get some cherry, and right in the back, it's like a tobacco kind of note. I'd say more like a pipe tobacco. Like when you open, I don't know if you guys ever opened up a fresh bag of pipe tobacco, you get that scent right away. That's what I'm getting. Pretty good nose. Um, Considering that it's 50% ABV, um, maybe I've just gotten used to the alcohol smell, but I don't really get it as much um, on this one. It's pretty good nose. Let's move on to the palate. Palate's pretty good too. Um, Up front, you get sweetness, very rich sweetness. Then you get a lot of the oak. There's the caramel, and in the back you get like a little uh, black pepper kind of spice. Um, the little hint of mint at the very end, and it's got a really long oaky finish. And you do get a bite. I mean, the 50% you get a bite, but like I said, it's 50%, and I don't really doesn't taste like it's 50%. To tell you the truth, it's and I do feel my tongue getting numb, but it's not really too harsh. I mean, it's a pretty good. Now, I'm not gonna drink this all the time at 50%. I don't think my liver would appreciate that. So, to me personally, my sweet spot's always been around, I don't know, like 43, 45% alcohol. So I'm gonna add some water and bring it down to quite a bit. I added 3 drops. That should be enough to bring it down quite a bit. Um, I don't really talk about the legs. If you swirl around your glass, you're gonna notice when you put it up against the light, um, little drops coming down, and I mean these come down so slow, so you know it's really rich in flavor. Yeah, they just come down super slow. Um, they're nice and long versus other stuff that's like 40%. You'll see them run down um, pretty quick. So I'll let this open up for a little bit, and I'll get into the whole bottled and bond, uh, just a little history on it. So back in the day, people were distilling stuff that wasn't really quality whiskey, and people were getting very sick or even dying because of that. And they were just taking shortcuts. They were adding stuff to the whiskey like iodine. They were adding some tobacco just to give it a nice gold color. To make it seem like it was aged. One of the books I was reading, the author said that they would go as far as chewing tobacco and spitting it in the barrel just to give it a coloring. Um, at the very least, people were just adding like prune juice or something, some kind of dark juice to color it. But that spitting in it, really? Um, so something had to be done about that. A bunch of people got together, and that's when the Bottled and Bond Act of 1897, and there's a whole list of regulations, rules that a distiller has to meet in order to be able to put on the bottle and bond. And it also has this little um, label here, government approved. So I wrote these down because I wasn't gonna remember all this. It's quite a bit of stuff. But it says in order to be a bottled and bond whiskey, it must be the product of one distillation season, which is from January to June, or July through December. Those are the two um, distillation seasons. From one distiller at one distillery. It says it has to be bottled at 100% proof. The label must identify the distillery and where it was distilled, and if different, where it was bottled. And the one rule that I think is the most important one is that it has to be aged in a federally bonded warehouse under U.S. government supervision for at least 4 years. So it might not seem like a lot, but that's a lot of hoops these guys got to go through just to be able to put on a bottled and bond label on their stuff. So yeah, all these rules were set in place for the one purpose of giving consumers a peace of mind that they were buying quality stuff. Whenever they saw bottled and bond on the label, they knew that they weren't buying garbage. They weren't gonna get sick and die like from that other junk that they were buying before. And that pretty much just set the rules for this right here. So if you haven't seen my larceny video, check that out really quick. That has a pretty interesting story behind it, and it's part of the rig houses, the government rig houses. So check it out. Let me know what you think about that. I thought it was pretty interesting. So yeah, bottled and bond was set in place for those purposes. So let's get into this with the water. You still get the oak, but now there's vanilla. I get an orange, citrus orange. You still get a lot of the oak. That's pretty much it. But it changed it. It changed it yeah, just like before on the palate with the water. And I only added like those 3 little drops. You don't feel your taste buds getting numb like before without it. And right up front, I get a lot of chocolate. Get a lot of chocolate in this. There's the caramel. And again, that oak. This time I taste charred oak. Quite a bit of it. And I still get a hint of mint in the very back of the palate there. And a little bit of nuttiness too, like peanuts. That's pretty good. The finish did get a little bit shorter, but now it just feels like a creamy mouthfeel, and it still stays there for a little bit, but then it's not as long as without the water. But like I said, I'm not gonna sip this at 100%. I'll take a couple sips just to get that going, and then I'll just add the water. This will definitely stand out on any cocktail that you put it in. It won't disappoint. I don't think I mentioned the price. I bought this for $18. $18, 100 proof, bottled in bond. You can't go wrong with this one. I'd say definitely pick this one up. Give it a chance if you haven't. I don't think it's gonna disappoint. It's a very, very tasty bourbon. Like I said, it's way different than the Black Label. I think the Black Label is only 43%. So, you know, you're getting a lot more for your money, since you're technically adding a little bit of water. You're creating more whiskey because of that. So it'll last you quite a bit. So my final thoughts on this is definitely give this a shot, and don't be afraid to trust the bottom shelf stuff, you know, because like I said, back in the day, people were getting sick and whatnot, and they came out with all these regulations. And you know, I think nowadays we're pretty safe to assume that you're not gonna get garbage. Like I said before in other videos, distillers, they take pride in what they do. Yes, there are better whiskeys, but when we're talking about bottom shelf, they're pretty good. They're pretty good, and I'm glad I'm finding these, because there's times when you just can't go out and spend, you know, $40-$50 on a bottle or more, and you know, you want to have something to come home to, and after a long day of work or whatever, and you just want to relax and kick back and have a dram. So I hope this changes your mind about cheap whiskey. It's cheap, but it doesn't mean that it's low in quality. So go out there, try some new bourbons, some new whiskeys that you've overlooked because of the price, and you know, if it sucks, it's just some cheap stuff that you can, you know, you're not gonna really cry about. You just whatever, mix it and put in some mixed drinks, and move on to the next. So Evan Williams, bottled in bond for $18, 100 proof. This one is a really good budget bourbon. You get a lot for your money on this one, that's for sure. So go get yourself a bottle. Maybe try something else that you've overlooked now that you know that you're not gonna get garbage. So until next time, cheers, bye, see you in the next video.